What if I told you that one of the most famous mountains in the Bible has been hiding in plain sight for thousands of years? And that everything you've been taught about where Moses received the Ten Commandments might be completely wrong? You probably know the story from Exodus. The Hebrew people escaped from Egypt, crossed the Red Sea, and made their way to Mount Sinai. That's where God gave Moses the Ten Commandments that changed history forever. But here's the thing, for centuries, experts have been arguing about where this actually happened. And now, one researcher believes he's cracked the code. Picture this. For thousands of years, people have trekked across burning deserts and climbed dangerous mountains, all searching for the same thing. They're looking for the place where God Himself came down to meet Moses. The mountain that shook with thunder, fire, and smoke. The spot where the finger of God carved the Ten Commandments into solid stone. We call this place Mount Sinai, and it's one of the most important locations in human history. But what if we've been looking in the wrong place this whole time? What if the real mountain isn't where everyone thinks it is? What if that mountain is still out there right now, with its peak burned black from God's presence, surrounded by ancient altars and split rocks that prove the Bible's account really happened? You're about to go on a journey that will completely change how you see one of the Bible's greatest stories. But first, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our deep dives into biblical mysteries and archaeological discoveries. Here I am, standing on what I believe is the real Mount Sinai. Look at this massive black boulder behind me. See how dark it is on the outside. But watch what happens when I chip off a piece. The inside is completely different. It's pink. The outside has been burned black. I'm taking samples back to our lab in Tennessee to test this. I'm convinced this is where the Israelites built their golden calf while Moses was up on the mountain getting the commandments from God. Now, here's where things get interesting. For thousands of years, everyone has believed that Mount Sinai is located at a place called Jebel Musa in Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. Tourists visit it every year. It's on all the maps. Tour guides take people there all the time. But there's a huge problem with this theory. The Bible itself points somewhere completely different. Think about it. After Moses fled Egypt, where did he go? The scriptures tell us he went to a land called Midian. That's where he married Zipporah and worked as a shepherd for his father-in-law Jethro. And here's the key detail. It was in Midian where Moses saw the burning bush on a mountain called Horeb, which is another name for Mount Sinai. Exodus chapter 3, verse 1 makes this crystal clear. Moses was taking care of Jethro's flock. Jethro was his father-in-law and the priest of Midian. Moses led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. So here's the million-dollar question. Where exactly was Midian located? The answer might surprise you. It wasn't in Egypt's Sinai Peninsula at all. Ancient historians, Bible scholars, and modern researchers all agree on one thing. Midian was in the northwest part of what we now call Saudi Arabia. That's right, the Bible is actually pointing us to look across the Red Sea, into Arabia itself. Deep in the Saudi Arabian desert, there's a mountain that most people have never heard of. The locals call it Jebel al-Lawz, which means Mountain of Almonds. But the researchers who've studied this mountain believe it's much more than just another desert peak. When you look at Jebel al-Lawz, the evidence is absolutely mind-blowing. This mountain matches the biblical description of Mount Sinai almost perfectly. You can literally see this from space. Satellite images show that the entire peak of this mountain is burned black, while the rocks below are much lighter in color. Now, this isn't a volcano. There's no volcanic activity here at all. These stones appear to be scorched from the outside, not melted from the inside. Sound familiar? Check out what Exodus chapter 19, verse 18 says. Mount Sinai was completely covered in smoke because the Lord came down on it in fire. The smoke rose like smoke from a furnace, and the whole mountain shook violently. That's not a coincidence, folks. That's a perfect match. But it gets even better. At the base of Jebel al-Lawz, there's this massive flat area that could easily hold millions of people. This would be exactly where the Israelites set up camp while Moses went up the mountain to meet with God. The Bible says in Exodus 19 verse 2, the Israelites camped there in front of the mountain. And that's exactly what we see, a perfect camping spot for a massive group of people. Around the mountain, researchers have found what look like ancient stone boundary markers. Remember, God told Moses to set up boundaries so people wouldn't accidentally touch the holy mountain and die. Exodus 19 verse 12 is crystal clear about this. Put limits around the mountain for the people. Tell them, be careful not to go up the mountain or even touch the edge of it. Anyone who touches the mountain will be put to death. Now here's where things get really incredible. Near the base of the mountain, there's this large stone structure that many believe is the altar where the Israelites built the golden calf. You remember that story from Exodus 32. While Moses was on the mountain getting the 10 Commandments, the people got impatient and made an idol to worship. And get this altar is covered with ancient carvings of bulls and calves. But here's the kicker, these aren't carved in the local Arabian style. They look Egyptian. It's like foreign people came to this spot and created a bull worship site, which is exactly what the Bible says happened. But wait, there's more. Not far from the mountain stands one of the most incredible sights you'll ever see, a massive rock that's been split completely in half. This thing is several stories tall, and it's cracked right down the middle like someone took a giant axe to it. And here's the crazy part, underneath this rock, you can see signs that water once flowed there. But this is in the middle of one of the driest places on earth. This matches perfectly with Exodus 17 verse 6, where God tells Moses, I will stand there before you by the rock at Mount Sinai. Strike the rock, and water will pour out of it for the people to drink. The size of this rock is absolutely mind-blowing. It doesn't just look split, it looks like it was cracked open by supernatural force. Here's what's really interesting though. This mountain is completely off-limits today. The Saudi government has it fenced off and heavily guarded. There are warning signs everywhere telling people to stay away. Local guides are forbidden from taking tourists there, and people who try to document the area often get arrested or kicked out of the country. Why would they do this? What's so important that it has to be kept secret? Some people believe the Saudi authorities know exactly what they're sitting on, one of the most important archaeological and religious sites in human history. If this really is Mount Sinai, it would prove that the Exodus wasn't just a story, it was actual history. For years, skeptics have said the Exodus never happened, that it's just a myth with no basis in reality. But discoveries like the burned mountaintop, the rock carvings, the split rock, and the ancient altars are making those skeptics think twice. We're literally watching the Bible come to life before our eyes. Not just in words, but in actual rocks, mountains, and ancient paths. Somewhere out there in the desert, behind barbed wire and military guards, a mountain stands waiting. It still bears the burn marks from God's presence. At its base lies evidence of rebellion, covenant, mercy, and wonder. It's the place where God's voice once thundered from heaven. Maybe it's time for the world to listen again. If this incredible journey through biblical archaeology has opened your eyes, make sure you subscribe to our channel for more amazing explorations of ancient mysteries and stories that bring the Bible to life. Because the truth is just beginning to emerge from the sand, and you won't want to miss what we discover next.